My name is Deja Reed. I am a journalism major at Emerson College. And for those who do not know me, I am from New Bedford, Massachusetts. A topic that is very important to me is the disparity between urban and suburban education. I would like to talk to you about this today from a personal perspective as well as a global issue. My purpose is to inform you that there is a disturbing situation that exists due to the disparity between the majority population and the minority population in terms of quality education. That despite having a black president for the past 8 years and having supposedly equal society where everyone has the same opportunities, inequities continue to persist. The situation is reaching a critical point because of unmet expectations and a realization that the status quo remains. Poor people are painfully aware of the lack of opportunities that exist for them and their children. It is important that this information is shared and understood at colleges and universities like Emerson. It is my strong contention that the result of the difference between inner-city schools and suburban schools is resulted in the further development of a permanent underclass. Without access to the very best in modern educational opportunities, inner-city students will not be competitive for careers that are likely to provide them with happy and successful lives. Additionally, all of society suffers when not everyone can afford to participate in the economic growth of that the majority population does. Before we go any further, there are two important things to know about education and opportunity as they pertain to minority populations. First, teaching a slave to read was considered a serious offense. And the biggest struggles of the civil rights movement involved the fight to desegregate schools. The first important legal ruling that started the march for the civil rights for all people was Brown versus Topeka in 1954, which outlawed segregated schools. The desire for quality education for all continues to this day. As we consider the quality of education between poor inner-city schools and wealthier suburban schools in terms of student achievement, college placement, and educational opportunities, the difference is substantial. Suburban schools have always been awarded the latest technological advances where every student is given a laptop or tablet to enhance their educational experience, while many urban schools still have outdated books and computers for only a selected few. Inner-city schools receive less funding, which limits the amount of improvements that can be made to the school. Progressives claim that the major problem afflicting U.S. schools is lack of funding. Inequitable funding of U.S. public schools contributes significantly to the underachievement of our low-income and minority students, according to Cynthia G. Brown, the Vice President of Education Policy at the Center for American Progress. The Center for American Progress report also determined that schools that enroll 90% or more non-white students spend $733 less per pupil per year than schools that enroll 90% or more white students. Dropout rates are extremely high in urban areas, with high minority populations. Family poverty is directly related to dropouts, but poverty associated with schools is also a factor. Compared to graduates, high school dropouts are less likely to earn a living wage. In 2009, the dropout rate for low-income students was 5 times greater than their high-income counterparts, 7.4% compared to 1.4%. As someone who attended an underperforming high school, I am aware of the obstacles that come when dealing with poverty in education. I would now like to talk to you about some specific situations that I have become aware of and can speak about from first-hand experience. It is common knowledge suburban schools are equipped with the latest and best technological tools for students and teachers, as opposed to my high school, who didn't have enough books for all the classes. And many of those books were outdated. I had a U.S. history book that was issued before 9/11 and the election of Barack Obama. My school had computer labs that had less than 100 computers in the schools whose enrollment was more than 2,000, of which were manufactured in the last century. Opportunities for minority students continue to remain far below those of the majority. The atmospherics in urban schools is vastly different than those in suburban schools. Constant disruptions, discipline issues, issues in the community, and home life are carried into the school settings. Violence is a real issue. Guns, knives, and other dangerous weapons consistently find their way into urban schools. How are children supposed to learn when teachers instruct properly when there are distractions associated with violence present? In my opinion, all of the above stated discrepancies have led to a situation where there is a lack of opportunity for minority students. The traditional way to escape poverty in America has been through high-quality public education. This has worked for poor white immigrant populations but has not worked for non-white populations. Minorities going all the way back to slavery have been denied the opportunity to participate in meaningful educational opportunities. The result of this has been a never-ending cycle of poverty for non-white people in America. I've tried to make you aware today of a situation that I feel needs all of our attention. It is not my purpose to complain about the situation without offering some suggestion and hope for the future. While affirmative action has in some cases allowed inner-city students to attend competitive higher learning institutions, there are many situations where they are set up to fail because they are not in any way ready to compete with their suburban counterparts who have had quality education since preschool. The National Student Clearing Research Center found high-poverty high schools sent more than half their class of 2012 graduates to college that following fall, compared to 70% of graduates from higher income schools. More than 40% of children living in poverty aren't prepared for primary schooling. Children that live below the poverty line are 1.3 times more likely to develop disabilities, learning disabilities, and developmental delays than those who don't live in poverty. By the time an African American, Hispanic, and low-income student reaches the 4th grade, they are already 2 years behind grade level. Because of all of this, we need to take a totally new look at how education is funded. We need to come up with a way that is not tied to the past, but come up with an idea that will ensure every child is guaranteed the same highest quality education from cradle to grave. We need to take a closer look at some possible solutions. Improvements in the public education alone will not eliminate poverty, but they are an important part of the solution. We need to demand that students that come from poverty have access to high-level curriculum, opportunities, and high expectations as their wealthier counterparts. Educators need to develop a curriculum that is relevant to the students' lives, that draw on their surroundings and experiences. Reaching out to educational advocates, educating ourselves about the cycle of poverty and classism that lies in and out of the American school system. We must, as a society, recognize the differences between the inner-city schools and the suburban schools when it comes to funding, resources, and opportunities. We must acknowledge that urban areas that are mainly populated by minorities have high dropout rates that are directly related to poverty. We need to talk about the performance gap between the urban students and their suburban counterparts in a way in which we bring new light on the subject. We need to understand that quality education is not only a right for every American child, but a necessary step for a bright future for all. We must acknowledge that action has to be taken soon for change to happen. I hope my talk today was informative and created an atmosphere where further dialogue is encouraged. I believe problems cannot be solved until they are acknowledged. Then action needs to follow. I hope my speech today will inspire all of you to begin the discussion that will eventually lead to correcting the situation, and America can live up to its promise of unlimited and unconditional opportunity for all. Thank you.